Hello, ladies. My name is Trish. And so there's a story behind the bourbon. Honestly, I feel like Courtney just kind of raided our storage room for that. But so I normally do an event called Whiskey and Wills. So normally when I'm up here talking, everybody has bourbon in front of them, and so it's a little bit easier. But today, I'm not really going to talk about necessarily what happens if you die. Which is normally what I'm talking about. I know, super fun topic, right? So speaking of pivoting earlier, I'm going to pivot a little bit. And does anyone else just think of Ross Geller yelling pivot when we hear the word pivot? Okay, thank you. Pivot! So we're gonna pivot. And then I really threw everybody off because obviously Arch Legacy Firm is my law firm. I started it about 6 years ago almost with my sister, Stephanie. Everyone calls her sister Stephanie because I always introduce her as that. She gets a little annoyed. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. You've been my sister for 37 years. You've been my business partner for 6. Excuse me. But I threw a wrench in it. I gave you all one of these booklets, and I confused you because I put a different logo on it. It's Arch Strategies. And on the back, you'll see, following Chad's advice, my son, who I do pay, which then in turn pays for Prince Avenue, and then my husband, Andy. Now, technically, Arch Strategies is actually supposed to be his company, but he told me the other day, he goes, I just love working with you. I think we need to do it together. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll start the business, Andy. But basically, it's just an adjacent business to my law firm. So what my law firm does is we literally sit down with people and we force you to adult. We talk to you about what happens if you pass away and what happens if you become incapacitated. It's not a fun conversation, but the goal is that when people leave my office, they tell me, I feel so much better. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I'm so happy I don't have to think about this ever again. Well, not ever again, but at least for a while. So normally I'm talking a little bit more about estate planning, but today I'm going to pivot and we're going to talk a little bit more about building your legacy, not just how to leave your legacy. So also, I want to clarify my comment to Chad earlier because I have a point to prove. If you have a child that is a minor, they are completely tax-free. If they are above the age of 18, you have to pay them payroll tax. So that's why I yelled out that it has to be a minor, but you can still pay your kids. Don't worry about it. Love Chad. He is absolutely a fantastic advisor. Highly recommend. So I want to ask you first, how many of you here do actually have a business or are planning on opening a business? Can you raise your hands? Awesome. Now, how many of you, regardless of whether you have a business or not, how many of you have kids? Awesome. So regardless of whether you own a business or not, at the end of the day, this does still apply to you if you have children, because it is still all about building and leaving your legacy. So, a little bit of a story about myself. Again, I started this firm almost 6 years ago. In January or February of 2020, I decided to start this firm. My son wasn't quite a year old yet. And guess what happened? COVID happened right after that. And I decided to start the firm. And you know what? I will say, I don't think that COVID necessarily hurt me, because certainly dying was on a lot of people's minds. But when I started this law firm, it was me and Stephanie. And I told Stephanie, I was like, oh yeah, this will be a great way. We learned so much from our family's mistakes and what happened to my grandmother's legacy. And let's go help some other people and make some side money. It was a side hustle, right? She had 2 boys, I had a son. We were gonna work together, do this on the side, make some money, help people, feel really good about ourselves, and that was it. Fast forward 6 years, and we've doubled in revenue almost 4 times. And it's no longer a side hustle. My sister will tell everybody that asks that I lied to her. That I have repeatedly told her that I don't want to be that big. And then the next time she talks to me, I'm like, well, I think we can get a little bit bigger. So now, instead of it being just me and Stephanie, we're now a team of 11, 10 of us being moms. So I normally just say we're a team of moms. However, my husband is a dad. And last year, we retired him from corporate America. I tell everybody, I'm like, sweetie, just tell everybody that you're a retired aerospace engineer and you retired at 34, and they're gonna be like, oh, he just absolutely just killed it. And it's true, he did, he married me. And so he now works with me as my CFO, and we are getting Art Strategies off the ground. So today, I do wanna help you make sure that the business that you're growing and that you've poured your heart into doesn't crumble if something happens to you, but it becomes instead a part of your legacy. Because a legacy means so much more than I think what most people think of it as. You don't have to be famous. And in fact, I'm sorry, famous people are the absolute worst at estate planning, so don't follow their advice. It can be your kids, it can be your business, it can be how you give back to the community. It's whatever you want it to be. But help your business be a part of that legacy. So I feel like what I see a lot of the time with women, the trap that we fall into is that we start a business because there's something that we're passionate about. When my grandmother passed away in 2010, we realized that her estate plan had been changed post-mental incapacity. When my grandfather passed away 6 years ago, my dad ended up in probate court for 4 years, spent over $200,000 in probate attorney's fees, and lost out on over $1 million. This is not the legacy that my grandmother wanted to leave. And so I turned that lesson into a business. But it's taken me 6 years, and it will take me a lot longer to actually turn that passion into something that is a legitimate business and legacy. Let's face it, most of us did not go to school for business. Did anybody in here actually get a business degree? Okay, a couple of y'all. How much has it actually helped you on the ground with your business? So I tell everybody, I'm like, I feel like I should have gone to school for marketing, but then I laugh because I graduated in 2010 from college, and we all know that nothing I would have learned back then would even come close to resembling what marketing is today. Hello, ChatGPT, can you please write me an email to this difficult client? So it changes constantly, and most of us did not go to business school, so we don't know what we don't know about starting and running a business. Now, a lot of people here are consultants, and they're amazing. They help you figure out your brand, your purpose. They make sure that you know your next steps, and I love that, and that is so important. But what a lot of people don't talk about are the really not fun things that go on in the background. As Chad was talking about, how do we form our business? Is it just taxed through us? Is it a sole proprietorship? Do we file it as an LLC in the state of Georgia, and then it still gets taxed through us? Or do we file it as an LLC in Georgia and then file it as an S-Corp federally for tax purposes? That's what Chad was talking about, an LLC and an S-Corp. In Georgia, it's an LLC. Federally, it's an S-Corp. There's a lot that goes into that, and there is a threshold that you want to start really thinking about that threshold that we as lawyers always say, and lawyers are going to differ from CPAs and tax strategists, and I'm not a tax attorney, but we always say like $60,000. If you're making more than $60,000, it's time. It's time to really evaluate how you want your company to be taxed. And then you go find a CPA, and you don't ask me because I know just enough to be dangerous. Now, once you have your business set up, what happens if something happens to you? I have clients. I have 10 employees, team members. I have my family. What happens if all of a sudden I'm no longer able to run my business? Guess what? It's a law firm. It's a professional company. Therefore, my husband cannot own it and run it because he is not a lawyer. Something he complains about all the time. I'm like, please don't go to law school. What a waste of time. We have other amazing lawyers for that now. Oftentimes, there's no clarity on ownership. Do you have the right insurance? Do you have line of credit? Do you have a good bookkeeper, a good CPA, a good professional that can help you with the marketing and the branding? These are the things that we need to make sure are in place so that we can grow our business. My son came home. He goes to Prince Avenue, so he goes to a Christian school. And he came home and he started singing "Build My House on the Rock" or whatever. He started singing that song, right? I used to sing that when I was little at Vacation Bible School. And it just reminds me that absolutely my business is built on the foundation and the rock of God. I thank him. I ask him for guidance every day of my life. But it also has to be built on a foundation of sound legal, financial, insurance, and tax. Otherwise, as you grow, it is going to crumble because it's not ready to grow the way that you want it to grow to become your legacy. So, we have to make it legally legit. We do. I'm sorry. We don't like lawyers. We're not all that bad, I promise. Some are, but not all of us. The one my grandmother went to for an estate plan, he sucked. You need to choose the right structure. So like Chad was saying, LLC, S Corp, it depends on what your goals are. Always build towards what you want it to be, not what it is today, because we're shooting for the stars. You need to keep your business finances separate. Do not commingle your funds. And y'all, there is no magical trust that will protect your assets from liability that you can create for yourself. I don't care what TikTok told you, it does not exist. The only way to protect your business and your assets is to create an LLC correctly with the right documents and keep everything separate from your personal. And then have the right insurance, no matter how much insurance companies suck. So business, life insurance, all of these are super important things to have. Now you get to plan for what if. What if you do get in a car accident and end up in the hospital? Do you have your power of attorney documents, your healthcare power of attorney document, your financial power of attorney document, your trust in place? And then you need to integrate your business with your trust plan. Yes, I said trust. Wills don't do half of what you think they do. If you own a business and if you have minor kids, most likely you need a revocable living trust. And then we need to tie your business into that revocable living trust so that it can help your family avoid probate court. Because if your business ends up in probate court, that's where it goes to die. Because it's going to be tied up there for 6 to 12 months, conflict-free. If there's conflict, it's going to be tied up there for a lot longer. So your business reflects your creativity, your courage, your community impact. So if you weren't here tomorrow, what would you want to happen to your business? Do you want this legacy to continue for the benefit of your family, your staff, and your clients? So I encourage you to see legal planning not as a burden, not as a huge expense, because guess what? You can write it off through your business, estate planning and business planning. Write it off. It is a tax deduction. Ask Chad if you see him next time. It is an act of love for your family, staff, and clients when you prepare properly. So, your hobby may have started as a passion, but your legacy begins when you protect it and prepare for growth. You've built something beautiful, and now let's make sure it lasts. And whether it's your family, your kids, your business, it is your legacy. And we need to make sure that those things and those people are protected no matter what happens to you. Because y'all, I see it in the articles and Facebook every single day. People die very unexpectedly. It's not a happy thing to think about, but it does happen. So we want to make sure that you are protected no matter what, because when you remember your umbrella, it never rains.